Lewiston.
So I just saw the Facebook post. Would you mind giving us a summary of where the department is moving forward regarding the recent crimes here in Lewiston?
Due to the recent violent crimes that have been occurring in Lewiston, and actually it's been going on for about a month and a half or so, the Lewiston Police Department are going to increase our efforts. Some of you may be aware that back in May we worked with Maine Drug Enforcement Agency. We arrested 5 people for trafficking in crack cocaine. Then again in June, with the assistance of the federal government with ATF, we arrested another 5 people for trafficking cocaine here in Lewiston. So what we've done is I've reached out to the Maine State Police, who are going to assist us in expanding our efforts in terms of our drug and traffic interdiction. So folks that are driving here in Lewiston, don't be surprised if you get pulled over by a state trooper for a headlight out or for an inspection sticker, because we're asked for some help in dealing with some of these issues. We've been having an increase in calls for service, meaning people picking up the phone and wanting the police to come. I've been a little short-staffed due to injuries and just not having positions filled here at the police department. So with the blessings of the city administrator, I'm now going to be able to increase my overtime and hiring more officers to be out in the street. Since the homicide that occurred this past June 12th, I've had 2 officers on foot patrol in Kennedy Park and in the downtown area, walking around from around 3 o'clock in the afternoon till early morning hours. I'm going to increase that number. By now having the hirings, I'm able to put officers back on bicycles to have them interact more in the community. The Lewiston Police Department also has partnerships with various federal agencies, ATF, the Violent Crime Task Force. I've reached out to those agencies as well, and they're going to increase their presence here in the downtown area, in those areas that we've had the spike in crime. Maine Drug Enforcement agents have also said that they will be more visible, more present in our area that we're having these crime issues. We feel that a lot of these shootings have been targeted, have been drug-related, so we're really going to focus on dealing with those issues of the drug-related violence that unfortunately is occurring here in Lewiston.
How long ago did you reach out to state police and ask them to help?
I've been reaching out to the various agencies. I'm not going to say when these are going to occur, but they will be occurring going forward from this point on. And we're going to try to vary our days of when the state police are here or ATF are here, or when the FBI Safe Streets Initiative, have those officers come up. So folks in these areas that are being affected by the crime rate will see officers out in more in force, and you'll see people with ATF and different federal markings on their clothing, on their uniforms as they're out in the streets. We had an influx of issues back in 2014. We were able to get some federal funding where we had a hotspot initiative, and we were able to have more bodies out in the street. And we find that when we have more a visible presence out in the community, our violent crime tends to decrease.
So speaking of violent crime, I mean, what's going on in your mind?
What I'm seeing as, and it's been kind of an unintended consequence of the concealed weapon permit, this new law where folks don't have to can carry a firearm without a concealed weapon permit. I'm seeing people who wouldn't carry in the past, who may not be felons, are carrying these firearms, and what used to be a fist fight, now a gun is brought into play. We've had instances where someone is just firing a gun in the air, not with the intent to shoot anyone, but to scare people, to get their point across, so to speak, but unfortunately they're using a firearm. And as everyone knows, responsible gun owners know, when you pull that trigger and that bullet goes up in the air, it's coming down, and it's coming down somewhere. So we're seeing that we've made many arrests for felons in possession of firearms, but also people who aren't felons but are committing felony acts such as drug trafficking. In the past, when we had concealed weapon permits, if we had somebody from out of state or someone who was in Lewiston, up to no good, just trying to make money by selling drugs, if my patrol officers interacted with them in an instance that it wasn't drug trafficking and the person had a concealed weapon, the officer could arrest them for carrying a concealed weapon and seize that firearm. Now that didn't make them a felon, but we got that firearm off the street. But now my patrol officers can't do that because the law is no longer in place, and I think that was an unintended consequence. I'm not saying this so I want to punish responsible gun owners, because I own guns, my officers do, but we're seeing people who really have no real knowledge of how to use a firearm. I had a young lady that came into the police station today, reported that she bought a gun and she lost it. She was at a party this weekend, and she just said, well, I felt I needed to have a gun and I lost my gun. I've had instances of AK-47s being turned into the police department when we've arrested somebody, or just being turned in because the person said, well, I have this and I really don't think I should have it. This is an issue where guns are now, where it used to be just a traffic accident and maybe some road rage of yelling, We've had people wave guns around at people, so we're seeing this huge influx of guns being involved when years past there were some steps that we could take prior to it becoming shootouts that we're having here in Lewiston. And that's what I see as the biggest reason that we're having with the gun violence. Now, of course, we have issues, unfortunately, with domestic violence issues, mental health and substance abuse issues here in Lewiston, which we've had for many years, and those just perpetuate some of the problems. But when you have those issues and you put a firearm in the mix, that's when we're starting having some serious problems.
Now, we've talked to residents who have said, they're concerned even stepping out of their front door at this point with some of the violence that's been going on. So with some of these initiatives that are coming up, what is your direct message to those folks?
My message is I understand how the folks are feeling when it's 6:30, 7 o'clock on a Friday night and they're hearing gunshots going off. Now, my hope is that with the increased presence of the police officers, with the increased presence of the state police, increased presence of the federal partners that we work with, that this will curtail and cut back and eliminate the gun violence and the violent crime that's occurring here in Lewiston. So my hope is that they'll feel safe enough. If you look out in the park right now in Kennedy Park, we have children playing. They're playing basketball, they're swimming. Folks are sitting and enjoying the coolness of the shade. My hope is that we can get more of the community to come out and let's put a positive turn on this, as opposed to the fear of being in your home and the fear that you can't step out. And a lot of the gun violence has been targeted at certain individuals who are involved in drug dealing, but my fear is the innocent bystander. So I understand their concerns, but that's why we've done this increase in actually calling in other agencies to assist us in policing these areas that have been afflicted by this crime.
So you had a child, a Lewiston Middle School student die on a field trip, a guy who's beat to death, a woman who's stabbed in front of, her kids, not really involving just specifically gun violence. How has the mood been, around the
Correct, and that's where I say things come, where you have domestic violence issues, where you have mental health and you have substance abuse issues. That is where a lot of the violence occurs. If you have domestic violence in the home, you have substance abuse issues in the home, that then has a trickle-down effect to the rest of our population, to our juvenile population here in the city, where unfortunately, if these children don't have role models or a parent figure that knows how to parent them based on mental health and substance abuse disorders, that's where we have these issues of the crime that's occurring here in Lewiston.
Where do you guys stand right now regarding the recent murder of the woman on Sunday?
I'm very happy that the Maine State Police have made an arrest. It's a very unfortunate. My wish and desire was that gentleman was never let out of prison for committing a murder back in 1979, but we as the Lewiston Police Department have no say on whether or not someone gets released from prison. We arrest the individuals and we do our best to present a solid case to the district attorney's office, and we hope that they will try to pursue that and get as much jail time as they can, especially for certain individuals who are committing violent crimes.
By any chance, do you know where the children of the woman are or who they're staying with?
I do not.
You had mentioned you guys are taking steps on your end, obviously, to curtail some of this violence. For members of the general public, folks out there that maybe watching this, is there something that they can do on their end of things?
I would strongly suggest to folks that if they see some violence occurring, to please call the police department. We need witnesses to assist my detectives and my officers in their investigations. If they see somebody with a firearm, yes, people can carry guns without a permit, but they can still call the police and we can check out those people to make sure that they aren't felons and they are allowed to carry the firearms.
Can you talk a little bit about the open positions you have in the department?
Well, a lot of my issues right now have been officers that have been out injured, that officers are in what we call a field training officer program. So I'm actually sending 2 more to the police academy in August. End of August, beginning of September, some officers should be getting off the field training officer program, so they'll put another 3 additional bodies on the streets. So at the beginning of the summer, I was down 9 officers, and that is I'm slowly whittling away at that. But my hope is come September, I'll have some of those replaced. But unfortunately, by the time you interview and you train someone, it's about a year before an officer actually is on their own and can actually do some good on the streets.
But have you had trouble recruiting?
We have had trouble recruiting. We haven't had the number of applicants that we've had in the past. We still have quality applicants. We work with Central Maine Community College, with Hudson University, has a criminal justice program, but we're not having large numbers of individuals applying, which we used to in the past. When I applied to the police department, I was up against probably 150 candidates, and for the last interviews I had for 2 positions, we interviewed 10 people.
Is that unique to Lewiston?
No, that's unique statewide. I think it's unique nationwide due to the current state of the perception of law enforcement. And as I stand here with the cameras in front of me, it doesn't bother me, but when my police officers are on the street, every action that they do, there's more often than not they're having a camera. Either they have a camera in the cruiser or someone's holding a camera up in front of them. Anything else
you want to add that we forgot to ask?
I think we're good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No problem. My real pocket.